and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's 2023. It's the first Mr. Warren Hayes Show of the new year. And listen, my promise to you for 2023 is just to continue doing my best here, to give you the best D-list podcast out there because you are an A-plus audience. And that is my sincere resolution for you. Look, thank you already for being here, and hopefully we can all stick around with each other for an entire revolution around the sun once again. So I appreciate you being here. Look, if you're listening to this on YouTube right now, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, if you've never been here before. That would be great because then you'll never miss an edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show recording or video on demand, because we record live every Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. If you can never make it, that'd be great. If you can't, that's fine. But otherwise, you can watch this anytime you want, and I appreciate it. And then on top of that, if you subscribe, you'll never miss an edition of the Dynamite review, which I do every Thursday, recapping in depth the previous night's Dynamite. So be sure to pop in and check that out as well. So again, in advance, let's start off the new year on the right foot. Subscriptions, likes, support, that stuff is fantastic. And you can do the same type of support over on your favorite podcast feed as well. If you're listening to this on your audio, on the audio side of things, I appreciate it a great deal. A 5-star review on Apple Podcast, a 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things help out a great deal. Thank you all very much. And you also get the Dynamite review there as well. It's not just for YouTube people. No. Dynamite reviews are for everyone. You'll just never miss a thing. And I appreciate you already being here and listening to this and maybe even joining the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. There's a resolution for you. Why don't you come join the Discord and join into some discussion? We have a nice little community going on there. We'd love to have you because we love talking about pro wrestling. I love talking about pro wrestling. Well, tons of people do. And people like to talk. So there you go. It's a great combination that goes great together. So thank you again. And look, we might as well just slide into everything right now because we've got some quite a bit of stuff to cover tonight. Of course, I'm going to be reviewing the STARDOM Dream Queendom 2022 show, which was fantastic. Spoiler alert. We're going to retread some big events that happened in 2023. Going to talk about Dragon Lee being signed and some contract news coming out of Japan as well, plus a whole bunch of stuff more. It's a big show, lots of odds and ends. Let's get to it. Thank you very much for being here. Let's just go. Let's just go. Weekly wrestling inspection. Here we go. This is more of a question of what were the big events, the big news items of 2023. And I think, forever and ever, 2023 is going to be etched in the brains of pro wrestling fans as the year that Vince McMahon left wrestling, which is completely insane and is something that even those of us young enough to be able to outlive physically Vince McMahon didn't think that he would be. We never thought that he'd be away from pro wrestling. And that is huge. In and about itself, it is enormous news because even for myself, even though I was born before Vince actually took over from his dad, I've never known a pro wrestling environment that did not involve Vince McMahon, right? He's built himself an empire. He is the most successful wrestling promoter of all time. Those are things that you cannot take away from Vince. And if that wasn't big enough a story, just itself, he had to actually resign from WWE, was removed from the company because of a bunch of scandals that were popping up. You're like, oh, this is interesting now. This is very interesting. So it's not even just a question of how far did Vince make it to this point, right? How far Vince made it. and then left the company essentially. No, he was forced to leave. So look, we're not going to get back into everything, but this is absolutely, like, unquestionably, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest wrestling news story of the year. It's the biggest wrestling news story of the past 10 years, 15 years. I've been trying to rack my brain, try and think of something bigger than Vince McMahon resigning in disgrace from the company that he founded, from WWE, the powerhouse juggernaut that it is. That this guy who lived exclusively for his business. How that all happened. How we all came to this point, right? It's wild. There's nothing that comes close. The creation of AEW was a big story, but it's not bigger than this. And it's just crazy news everywhere. Look, and on top of that, like if you were to take away Vince McMahon, after that, we're just littered with huge stories. Despite it all, things that should be absolutely captivating our attention, that you're like, when they happen, like, things can't get crazier than this. And then it's like the wrestling business keeps going, okay, bet. Hold my beer. Let's go. Yeah, the gripe bomb that happened, the all-out fallout or the brawl-out, whichever way you want to call it. That caused probably the most significant public shakeup in a wrestling company in a long, long, long time. Lots of stuff that typically would have stayed behind the scenes, but it was all aired out there. I like calling it the gripe bomb. Shout out to Suit Williams over at or in the Voices of Wrestling writing team. But the CM Punk right now, again, I'm not going to walk down. My objective here, my target is not to walk down all the events. That's not what we're here for. And I've talked about all of these things on the show more than enough. But here's how we're starting 2023. Where we're entering 2023 still without any official word on what the future is for CM Punk, what his next step is going to be. We have actually people out there saying CM Punk should come back. We would love to have him back in the locker room. And amidst other little reports of, guys like Ricky Starks, for instance, talking and saying, what, CM Punk was, he was always open to giving me advice and criticism backstage. He'd watch our stuff, and a lot of the young guys, right? And Chris Jericho saying flat out, right? The representatives like Chris Jericho, no way, no how does he want CM Punk back, which is interesting because it's kind of what I was talking about last week. I was like, I feel like the old guys who have dealt with Phil Brooks in the past, probably they're already fed up with his shit. Whereas the younger guys and gals who are there and who probably watched him wrestle, as they were coming up, as they probably watched some of his tapes and WWE, whatever. They're like, yeah, I'm wrestling with CM Punk. This is a big deal for me, right? And especially if he's out there, extending a hand. But there's a lot of talk of him, maybe hanging around, maybe just like, maybe being, It's like, oh, CM Punk and the Elite, y'all, the four of you should sit down and try to find out a way to make some money. And this is what I've been advocating. But now it's been out there. And, as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't think these are wishes that are being cast willy-nilly into the wind. I believe that these are outcries for people to just like, hey, put your egos aside for a second and let's come together and do some business. Let's make a lot of money together, right? Again, I talked about this extensively last week, but I feel like in the meantime, there's been, it's been coming up a lot more. People have been talking about it more, the Dax Harwood stuff on his podcast. And I feel like there's been a lot of, hey, Phil, come back to the fold kind of thing. And please to the Elite, guys, swallow your pride and let's all talk about this for a second, right? Because the fact that there has been nothing said on the status of CM Punk within AEW, the fact that not a word has come out, nothing saying we're going to pay him out to the end of his contract, nothing. The fact that there is absolutely nothing, and in the meantime he's injured, so he could also be, nursing an injury in the meantime. I think that's very telling to me. I think it's very telling. This is a story, like, we're not even done with this aftermath because this is the discourse that we're in now. We know guys like Chris Jericho don't want him around, but I'm not surprised that a guy like Chris Jericho thinks that CM Punk is an asshole because he's had to deal with him. And leopards in spots. I kind of get it. There's a lot of things that happen backstage that make us, that can absolutely make us realize that CM Punk hasn't really changed his ways. I don't want to give the impression that I'm suddenly an apologist and that I want him to come, whatever sins he was responsible for should be washed away. Kind of, that's not it. So, but I am also I'm mostly a proponent of the basis of any business, but since we're talking about wrestling business, the wrestling business of let's get together and make lots of money. Let's just make money together. And CM Punk was a moneymaker for the company. And if you don't believe me, you just have to go look at every observable metric between the time he came back in August 2021 to when he blipped out in September 2022. Just go take a look at those. But we're not done with this story, and it's going to haunt everyone involved here for years because they're always going to be asked about it. This is always a question that's going to come up. What happened? What happened? What happened at All Out 2022? That's exactly what's going to happen. And we're talking about two big stories, but here's do y'all remember that Cody Rhodes leaving AEW was this year? That was this year. And this is one of these stories where I'm like, what? Yeah, it did happen this year. And it feels so long ago and so I don't want to say insignificant, but minimized in regards to everything else that was happening. That it's wild to look back and be like, yeah, that happened just this April, February, March, April. Cody was gone, and there was speculation he's on WrestleMania. He's with WWE now. It's just so crazy. And here's the thing, right? And here's the this is another one that we're not done with, right? And he's going to continue. Of course, he's going to come back from his pec injury, and clearly it's going to be imminent. And I guess what I'd underscore here is how Cody Rhodes is still geared to be a top guy in WWE. This is how he was presented. This is how things are going to be moving forward with him. Because I have people, saying, "Oh, Cody feels like a big deal in WWE." Do you know why? Because he's pushed. He's pushed. What WWE is doing with Cody Rhodes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a push. Winning Money in the Bank and then having waffly matches and losing here and winning there, that is not a push. What Cody Rhodes is experiencing with World Wrestling Entertainment, though, that is 100% a push. From the entrance, and I said it back at the time, and I'm staying the course. From the entrance that he got at WrestleMania to the Cody clock countdowns on Raw to the positions that he's been put in commercials, and they see Cody Rhodes as a top guy. He did not come back to WWE to wrestle for the US title. He wants to be at the top of the card. Now, I will admit to having a bit of a question, a bit of a swerve, a curveball, if you will, thrown at me when Seth started getting better position and getting great crowd reactions, and knowing that Seth Rollins is a Triple H guy, I was like, well, maybe I need to change course here. And I suddenly had a seed of doubt anyway, planted in my brain that Cody might not be the guy who will dethrone Roman Reigns. Maybe it will be Seth Rollins. But then once again, everything has been erased. Every doubt has been erased in my mind. And do you know why? Because they came back and they're doing, they came back and now they're doing video packages for Cody, reminding us of his tumultuous journey and his injury, and doubling down on, Dusty was in WWE and was never world champion, and this is something that I want to do. I want to fulfill my father's my father's wishes. I want to accomplish what he was unable to do. I want to be WWE. Like, they are leaning extremely hard into it. And considering that he has a push and a push. Like, and again, I can't underscore this enough. This is what a push in wrestling looks like. Considering all of that, Cody right now is still my number one pick to take the belt off of Roman, because they are making him that big. They made him big the moment he stepped out at WrestleMania, and it's going to continue. I'm holding firm on this. And they were saying, oh, he might feud with Seth again. I said, that's a mistake. You know what I'd have him do? I'd have him feud, have him win the Royal Rumble. Have him win the Royal Rumble. I think if it has to be that, or what, Elimination Chamber, whatever. And whatever happens, I think he's going to be the guy to fight Roman at WrestleMania and take the belt off of him. Plus, in the meantime, what do you have him do? So what's the feud you have him do, Warren, in the meantime? Have him fight Jay. Have Roman throw Jey Uso, his right-hand man. Have him throw Jey at Cody. Nice little feud to keep things bubbling and simmering. You're not tossing Roman completely to the side because it's all bloodline stuff. And then in the meantime, you can continue to cultivate a Sami and Jey feud, because I think that's where we're leading to. A WrestleMania match with Jey Uso and Sami Zayn in some form or other. There might even be a tag team match with Kevin Owens and, you know, whatever. The mental gymnastics of, it's going to be Sami. It's not going to be Sami. And as much as I love Sami Zayn, it's not going to be Sami. It just isn't. Got people talking about The Rock. You don't give the belt to The Rock. What are you talking about? He's a movie star. He doesn't need it. And your company doesn't need it. What is this? That's something that boggles my mind. Cody is the only guy who feels big enough to do it. And they're going to make sure that he looks and works the part. Because that's what they're building to. And I don't know why you're not... For all of these things that people keep telling me, the storytelling in WWE is so great, it's so subtle, you got to pick up on everything. It's like, first of all, it's not subtle. And second of all, I don't know why you're not picking up on it. The signs are so abundantly clear. Of course, things can change. But I'm still holding fast. They give me every reason to believe that he is the guy. And the question that I have now, there's, guys and gals whose contracts are going to be coming up in AEW, right? In the next year. How many of them are going to be swayed by Cody's presence there? It's different. It's not the same. No, Vince is gone. It's a lot more creative. You got more time to wrestle, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of people, whose dreams is to be in WWE, right? There's a lot of people that's been their dream since they're a kid. Why? Because for the past 2 decades, it's only been one game in town. What else were some big things that happened this year? Sasha Banks and Naomi just walking out of WWE as champions, as tag team champions. Like, nope, we're done. Sayonara. Did you get it? Sayonara. We are on the cusp of Mercedes Varnado, Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks. First of all, giving us some kind of clarity as to what to call her moving forward. That's the first thing. But we are also on the cusp of a brand new path for her moving forward. Because, if you were to believe the rumors, and everyone just seems to be in agreement, and we know she's in Japan right now. If Sasha Banks shows up at Wrestle Kingdom, which is in a few hours, at the moment that I'm recording this, if she shows up, it's going to be a whole new, that's going to be one of the biggest stories of 2023 right then and there. But before that, Sasha and Naomi leaving was something huge, something that was completely unexpected. They just got the titles, and it's Sasha Banks, Naomi's with her. They both walk out, and they never turn, at least in Sasha's narrative or vision right now, she hasn't turned back. She hasn't looked back. Naomi, we'll see. She might. But Sasha is out there, and she's like, no, I'm going to bid on myself. 100%. I've talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about Sasha Banks on this podcast over the course of the year. But I think, this is, along with Cody and Sasha Banks and William Regal, William Regal signing with AEW at the beginning of the year and then not making it, and leaving towards the end of the same year. I think the argument here of having a competitive space for pro wrestling is crucial. It's important. And we're seeing dividends happening here where talent have an opportunity to go wherever the hell they want. They can go wherever they want. They're not beholden to this one company where if you're not working for them, well, you'll be scrounging for peanuts for the rest of your career. No, you can go in and get a good solid paycheck in WWE and AEW and abroad in New Japan. New Japan cracking out the money from the home office to hire her. And this is good for her. Good for Sasha Banks. And it's good for Cody Rhodes. It's like, you know what? Okay. I did my thing with AEW and I'm out of here. Yeah, sure. I'm a founding face of the company. Doesn't matter. I'm moving on. William Regal said, this is the type of environment that wrestling should always be able to be in, where wrestlers can move around from company to company and just be like, you know what? I'm going to go do a bit here, do some work there, and just stretch their legs, try out some new stuff. This is it. So I'm excited for this. I've been excited for the future of Sasha Banks, and I'm excited to see how WWE reacts. I think we already saw how WWE has reacted to it. I'll get to that in a little bit. And see how Naomi fares in all of this as well. I think she'll be back in WWE. And apparently, I was reading today that, it was reported that Naomi was going to be there. And I started going, oh, well, this is, look, and I was like, okay, look at Sasha, look at Sasha looking out for Naomi, making sure she's taken care of, right? Because she walked out with her and she was like, look, I'm gonna stick my neck out for her. I'm gonna make sure that she gets a payday. So I was like, okay, well, she's going to walk Sasha to the ring. She's going to be part of her entourage, a valet, a corner person, which is, common practice in New Japan. Tom Lawler brings Royce Isaacs over when he's in when he goes on tours, right? That kind of stuff. Why wouldn't they do that for Naomi? That'd be fine. But then it was reported also today that apparently Bayley, Io Shirai, Asuka, and Dakota Kai, they're all in Japan to cheer on for to cheer Sasha Banks on. So maybe Naomi is part of that. Maybe she won't have an on-screen role. Maybe she's all part of this group of people who are just there to celebrate. And I think that the fact that they're all there to show support and celebrate, I think that's very indicative as well. It's indicative of who Sasha Banks maybe is as a person. If she can, if friends are so loyal to her on that front, you don't get that type of loyalty if you're an asshole. It also shows, it's like, hey, let's go, we can celebrate achievements outside of WWE and it's fine. And it is absolutely fine. It is 100% fine. Because there are things to do outside of WWE. Kota Ibushi as well was another big story that happened this year. The fact that at some point during the summer, he started tweeting about people in New Japan being part of the Yakuza. And I was like, what is going on? This is a little intense. And that, how he was mistreated and how his mother attempted suicide and just crazy stuff. Talking ill about staff, about office members backstage and breaking kayfabe. I know kayfabe, we consider it to be over and done with, but kayfabe there's still a part of kayfabe that persists in Japan. And you're not supposed to necessarily talk about relationships and things that don't happen on camera publicly. So there was a lot of our boy Kota here was walking a hell of a line, not going to lie. And this created quite a stir in New Japan, to the point where the rumor right now is that they're letting his contract run out which should contract was supposed to be up by the end of the year, 2022. So he's probably a free agent at this point. He's been hanging around DDT, taking pictures with DDT wrestlers, including one Konosuke Takeshita. But, then he also posts pictures of him with, in the rafters at the Tokyo Dome. So look, there could be so many things going on. We don't know. And especially with a guy like Kota Ibushi, who is the free spirit who is, the penultimate free spirit of free spirits. This is a guy who never worked under contract. His New Japan contract was the first contract he ever signed, if I'm not mistaken. He's always done his own thing. He's always wrestled wherever he felt like it, do whatever he wanted to do. He's an eccentric guy. So I wouldn't put it past anyone to renege on this and be like, you know what, I think Kota Ibushi might stay in New Japan because he just might. He could. And it would be the most Kota Ibushi thing ever. It'd be surprising, but not shocking. You know what I mean? That makes sense. Like, I'd be surprised if he stayed, but I wouldn't be shocked because it's Kota Ibushi. Would it be anyone else? Would it be anyone else? I'd probably be shocked at this point if they said, but not Kota Ibushi. And that was significant because he was a big part of the plans that New Japan had moving forward. So that's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks. And that's it. It's like under all of this, then we have Stone Cold Steve Austin returning to wrestle a match at WrestleMania. And it is, you can absolutely consider this to be like the fifth, I'm just throwing out a few here. It can be the fourth, fifth, sixth most important thing that happened this year. Just to tell you how crazy a year this was. And he's at the point where he's like, yeah, let's do it again. Why don't we do another WrestleMania? That'd be fine. Jesus, okay. Good little match that was built around his strengths. It wasn't going to be 1996 Stone Cold that we were going to get. That guy hasn't existed since 1996, basically. What we got was entertaining, was fun. It felt like a Stone Cold match, and we got the moment, and WWE's all about the moments. We got it. It was great. But it's lost in everything else. I think people talked about the Ric Flair match more than they did about the Stone Cold match. But because there was probably a lot more dismay at the fact that this match was happening when a couple of years ago he was on his deathbed. He almost passed away in hospital. Then has a pacemaker set in. Like, no, you cannot wrestle, you can't bump. And now here we go. And he has a full-blown match with Andrade, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett. And I watched the match, and it was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever seen. And to parrot, some other podcasters as well, because a lot of people that I listen to have the same overall thought about this. Like, this to me at some point is voyeurism, because it's you. If you are a hardcore Ric Flair fan, this probably spoke to you on another level, right? I enjoy the work of Ric Flair, but if I want to remember Ric Flair, I'm not going to watch this match. I'm not even going to watch matches that he did in the 2000s. You're going to go back to the 80s, 1982, 1985 Ric Flair. That's what I'm going to go watch if I want to remember how great Ric Flair was. Not this thing. And I feel like I'm honoring his memory better by remembering the good stuff that he did as opposed to whatever this thing was, where he clearly passed out during the match. Like, I don't know why anyone thought this was a good idea. I don't know how anyone considered this was a good idea. And, even, you'll have bitter old former wrestling commentators calling athletic commissions about the level of blood that are used on certain wrestling shows, but no one calls athletic commissions to talk about this match here. I'm not saying this is, don't go snitching. My point here is that this was a bigger source of concern. We had Ric Flair in 2022 wrestling a match and almost dying. It's an absurd situation, if you ask me. Those are just some of the few. Just some of the few stories that we got this year. There were quite a few deaths as well in pro wrestling again this year. Some big names. Antonio Inoki, of course, founder of New Japan, passed away just a few months ago. Scott Hall as well. Sarah Lee. Tarzan Goto. Referees as well. Dave Hebner, Tim White, Mickey J. Henson, all passed away. And just to close out the year, on December 30, we found out that Don West of TNA Wrestling had passed away following a battle with cancer. West's passing was announced by his former broadcast partner, Mike Tenay, on Friday. 59 years old. This is what Mike Tenay wrote on Twitter. Just heard from wife Terry that our brother Don West will be spending New Year's in heaven. Terry said D-Dub finally had to tap out from his match with lymphoma. We bonded as soon as we met, both as broadcast partners and friends. Years of great moments, both on and off camera. From the Observer here. West announced in June 2021 that he had been diagnosed with a brain lymphoma. He went into remission after undergoing chemotherapy and radiation treatment, but the cancer returned and West began a second battle with the disease last December. West was part of the TNA wrestling commentary team from 2002 to 2012. He worked in the company's merchandise department as well. In 2017, West returned to the commentary booth to call Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary pay-per-view. Maybe even some of you remember, Don West with his Shop at Home network. He was a sports collectible pitchman back in the day, and some of his stuff is still on YouTube, and the videos of him hawking Beanie Babies is just priceless stuff. Like, just absolutely fantastic stuff. From everything that we've heard since his passing, Don West was clearly a wonderful, beloved human being. And gone too soon at 59. I think we can all echo the sentiment, fuck cancer. But he will be missed. And what a way to close out the year. There's been, again, 2022, extremely, extremely newsworthy, very busy year. Maybe 2023 will give us a bit of a break. Maybe a tiny bit of a break. I don't think so. So I watched SmackDown on Friday. Because, as you know, I am a casual WWE viewer, right? You know this. And since I am a casual WWE viewer, well, John Cena draws me in, right? Of course. He's the big draw. And you saw in the ratings as well. There's no question that John Cena is still the biggest draw that company has. Anyway. I decided to, so yeah, I watched the show. Well, I was very intrigued on what they were going to do in the main event. And what we got was a 10-minute hot tag build for John Cena. This was not a long match. Don't see why they had to be. But this was a fairly short match where Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn did the bulk of the work here. Ended with Cena getting a hot tag, cleaning house, paving the way for Kevin Owens to hit the stunner on Sami and get the pin. And a crowd pleaser is what these are called, right? It's for the live audience was into it. And Cena was all the way through getting the audience pumped up for it. And they were excited. All of this is fine. You didn't tune into this to get a classic generational Matt classic. It's not what you turned in here for. You just got what you got. I will say, I will comment on this one teeny tiny thing, which I have trouble just like coming to grips with. But it may seem innocuous, right? It may seem innocuous to most people, but you know, when your brain is like mine, this is the kind of thing that always pops up. But listen, John Cena hit the FU, the attitude adjustment, right, on Roman Reigns. Now, if you are the top guy in the company, in the business, arguably, you're the top act in the business. What is the impetus for you to take another guy's finisher on a rando Friday night on SmackDown TV? What is the benefit for you to take this? Because Roman is unquestionably the most protected guy in the company, and it's not a hit. This is truth. It's necessary. They should be protecting him with all their worth, excuse me. But so the fact that John Cena hits the AA on him just a little out of nowhere, it irks me. It sits with me. And I'm like, have we planted the seed for something? Maybe. And it may be something just down the road. Maybe, maybe I'm looking a little too hard into this, and that is entirely possible. It's not beyond my faculties to do that. But he see, everyone is saying, right, The Rock at WrestleMania. What if this is, plan B? What if they just have one in the chamber for Roman that they can instantly pop out on, and just like, well, look, a couple of weeks ago, John Cena, he came into, he hitched his boat to the dock of the island of relevancy or whatever it is the hell he says, and he put me down, and I have unfinished business with him. And then John Cena comes, and then instead of having Rock and Roman, you get Rock and Cena for WrestleMania. So would that be a thing? Could that be? I'm pretty sure the target is to get The Rock, but what if they don't get The Rock is my point, And there's only so many times still that you can call on John Cena to do this, because he does have a busy schedule. Because look, he's involved in one of Warner Bros. Most Discover Bros, Warner Bros. Discovery. He's involved in one of their most widely accepted and loved properties out of their DC comic book stuff, right? With Peacemaker. Like that actually works. It rules. And the Suicide Squad. And those are actually fun. there's only so much that he'll be able to do without, without the schedule being overwhelming. I mean, not just the schedule. We're also going to be talking about, legal considerations, right? Where it's at some point from purely a legal standpoint with insurers and so on and so forth. If John Cena gets injured and cannot perform his duties in the movies that he has lined up, because he most likely has a contract with Warner Bros. Discovery Bros, right? He most likely does. So they have expectations of him. They have insurers breathing down their necks and legal teams and so on and so forth. If he can't deliver on his performances for them, and they're paying him ungodly amounts of money, unquestionably, well, where does that leave him? Because he's Hollywood now. And he's another guy who doesn't need the WWE. The WWE needs him more. He doesn't need World Wrestling Entertainment as much as they need him. And I hope that's evident. I hope it's clear. The boost in ratings that he got and the reactions that he got. There's still no one in the company that elicits, little kids popping out of their seats and, people putting on their lime green merch to cheer for him like that. He's still the biggest draw of the company, and he barely works there anymore. I'm just saying, there's only so many times they can go to this well, and I know they know this, and we say this multiple times, but he did only wrestle for them once this year because he's more Hollywood than ever. And here's something that we didn't talk about enough, I find, because again, this is another where there's smoke, there's fire kind of situation, where if you remember in the build-up for SummerSlam, Austin Theory, when he was still Selfie Man, was cutting promos on John Cena. You remember that? And it was very clear that the path was heading towards SummerSlam, John Cena versus Austin Theory. Like, it felt like that's where we were going, correct? It seemed plain as day. Then what happened? Vince happens. The Wall Street Journal happens. And all this shit happens. So what does John Cena do? John Cena's like, no, I'm going to quietly remove myself. He probably made a call and was like, look, I'm not going to work SummerSlam. We're going to let this cool down. But right now wouldn't be a good look for me to hang around the company when all this is blowing up. And because he's Hollywood now. Because he just can't get away with that stuff anymore. It's like it's the Taiwan thing all over again. Have to apologize to appease the Chinese. It's the same thing here. It's like, no, I'm Vince. I can't go in and do the show while you're being investigated and you're in the news with sexual misconduct allegations. I can't do it. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the deterrent why that's never happened. So again, Cena's career in Hollywood is going swimmingly. It's going well. He might not be the box office megastar that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is. And even now, we're sort of wondering, well, has the shine started to dull a little bit on Dwayne Johnson? But he's doing very well. Be interesting. It's still interesting to think about, right? And then on that same show, we had the Ronda Rousey Raquel Gonzalez match, which culminated with the return of Charlotte Flair, who gets into the ring, challenges Ronda immediately right then, and she's all in gear. And she challenges Ronda right then and there. Put your title up on the line right there. Ronda's like, she wants to do it. Shayna Baszler's like, man, you were just in a fight. Ronda's like, yeah, but it's Charlotte Flair. And she goes and she loses the title like in 30 seconds, and Charlotte is SmackDown Women's Champion again. To the dismay of millions and to the joy of millions. I think it's very, very, very interesting that one of the best Ronda Rousey matches that has happened in months at this point happens on a night where she's dropping the belt. I think that's a little interesting. I can't help but do one of these. I can't help but scratch my chin. Bobarooski, nice to see you. Welcome. Because, well, anyway, I don't want to get into that. Because the interesting point here is Charlotte being back. Necessary jot in the arm for the SmackDown Women's Division, which is plagued by underperformances right and left. Sort of throws everything up in the air. Now, this is good booking. There's no halfway to look at this. There's no a half full, have a des demi-mesure, like we say in French. This is a good call and it is a good booking decision. I tweeted that out. And there's a guy who's like, explain why this is a good decision while there is 4 weeks left before the Royal Rumble. I'm like, well, the good decision is you take the belt. First of all, you've got a full 4 weeks left of build before the Royal Rumble. That's more than enough time to build your show. What are you talking about? If we were 2 weeks in and be like, well, okay, this is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see where this takes us. But 4 weeks, that's plenty of time for whatever you want to do. And whatever Charlotte has in store for the Royal Rumble now feels a little hot. It feels hot. They just have to maintain that. Or maybe they won't do a thing either, which is also possible. How does it... You only have 4 weeks left. 4 weeks is enough. For a month to build a pay-per-view? Absolutely. You're fine. Especially for a match which is not a main event draw match. People put too much thought into builds for mid-card feuds. It's ridiculous sometimes. That was one thing. The second thing is that how is this a bit... I'll tell you why this is a good booking move, right? You take the belt, you take the championship belt off of a wrestler who stinks. That's wrestling 101. It's wrestling booking 101. How is this a good decision? Well, it shouldn't have been put on Ronda in the first place because Ronda's been bad. Ronda's been terrible. And there's a consensus on this. Like, it's not even a question of, oh, Warren, you're just a hater. No, like, everyone is taken aback at how bad Ronda is now. We have people outright saying she's regressed. We don't understand. But she's bad. And here's the thing, in WWE, even if your work is bad, your mic time can save you. And for some reason, they keep giving Ronda mic time, thinking that she's good on the stick when she's not. She's just bad at pro wrestling. Everything that I tell y'all how good Bryan Danielson is in regards to pro wrestling and how he masters everything, Ronda is the opposite. She's got nothing. So the booking here is simple. And of course, I know why this person asked the question, because for them, booking is stories. Booking is the WWE definition of story. Well, what's the story? What are you trying to tell? Look, the booking of your wrestling shows is the crucial part of what you're doing. And what the stories you create around them is whatever. But you have to book properly and create stories around the booking, right? The booking decision was to make Ronda Rousey champion and put her in championship matches, where she stunk up the joint. Where systematically she has been having bad match after bad match after bad match, right up until this Friday, where she broke the streak with Raquel. I thought in all fairness, they had a nice little match. I thought it was pretty good. Solid, worked well. I had lots of time to develop it. Pretty good little match. Now we're doing Ronda and Charlotte. Now this is something you can question. This is something you can outright question. So, Warren, if we're going back to Charlotte to Charlotte and Ronda for another match, that's a disaster because they were one of the lowlights of WrestleMania this year, and I completely agree. Their match wasn't very good. I hated it if memory serves me right. And then Charlotte's been on hiatus since. But you don't put your championship, if anything, like they don't have to do another round of Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey's. They don't. And I hope they don't. Because I maintain the story, the one thing that WWE can give to a WWE audience that people would still want to see is Becky versus Ronda, because we didn't get it yet. We didn't get the solo one-on-one, and they've got fantastic animosity, history against one another to bring that back and be like, and finally have the one-on-one encounter that everyone wanted to see, the man versus the best woman on the planet. Indeed bad. Key word, operating key term here. But see, that's the thing. So this is where we're at. So you can go into WrestleMania and have Charlotte wrestle anyone else. Anyone else. And there's women on this roster. And so now I'm looking at this and I'm like, look, and I know I said Liv Morgan will never sniff a title again. Might sniff a title shot here. I think if you book Charlotte versus Liv for WrestleMania, you're listening to your base. You're listening to the WWE Universe, who absolutely loathe Charlotte, but can't get enough of Liv Morgan. And then you go with that. And I think that proves that you're listening to your base. Charlotte and Ronda, I don't think anyone wants that again. You don't think that's a Mania match? It's not a Mania match for me, not a Mania match for you, but we're not WWE we're not in the WWE universe. We're not in the WWE universe. Because I've said this before, and I'm going to repeat this one more time. WrestleMania for the past few years, I'd say about 7, 8, we're getting close to 10 years at this point. It's not a match about, the matches that we book here are not about work rate. It's not about putting on great wrestling matches. It's about creating moments. That's all they're concerned with. That's why Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn was a riot, but it wasn't a great wrestling match, but it was something. That's not what this show is for. WrestleManias are not are not about high-powered 5-star matches. You might get one if you're lucky. You might get, you might get a Cody and a Seth sprinkled in there, but that's not their concern. Their concern is the spectacle. It's the moments. And with the rabid fan bases that Charlotte fans and Liv fans have, I can absolutely see that happen. Absolutely. For the SmackDown Women's title, who else are you going to put on there? I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go down that path. Frankly, I'd pencil that in. The more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Because I don't know who else. Who else is over on the women's side on SmackDown? Anywho. So that was something. I as well, of course, as you know, I as well, of course, as you know, welcome the return of Charlotte Flair with open arms. I love Charlotte. I love how people react to Charlotte, and that makes me excited for her return. This is a shot in the arm. It's good stuff. I love Charlotte Flair. She has all the qualities that they want. So yes, you're going to get her shoved down your throat. Because again, who else is there that they've built who's ready to take on the mantle? So yeah, and everything else on SmackDown I forgot. I forget everything else. I think they're making fun of Top Dollar now on SmackDown. They're like that's a gimmick. And now we're having Royal Rumble qualifier matches, right? Because Top Dollar didn't like that Ricochet was making fun of him, right? Poor little guy. And now they're going to have a match, and whoever wins gets qualified for the Royal Rumble. So does this mean that everyone is going to get qualifiers? Because this was a Vince thing that I never understood. This is a Vince thing that I never, ever, ever understood. Why some people could just declare themselves into the Rumble and others had qualifiers. Where's the delimitation? Because if Ricochet was smart and he had this match put up for him, he'd be like, nah, man, I declare myself in the Royal Rumble. And then Triple H goes, well, damn. Okay, I don't know what to do, right? So, again, for everyone telling me that the booking is so different and better and improved under Triple H, we're back to one of the worst tropes. One of the things that is the most annoying of recent Royal Rumble seasons, where certain people can just declare they're in and other people have to fight their way into the Royal Rumble. It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense. And I always blamed it on Vince, but we're continuing down that line. So again, shout out to everyone telling me Triple H's booking is so much better and and so much different from Vince. We're getting a 1-to-1 Vince booking call right here. It's 1-to-1. Since we're on the topic of WWE as well, Lucha Superstar Dragon Lee has signed with WWE and will be joining NXT in January. I'm going to read this article off of the Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Online. Lee announced he had signed after he and Realistico defeated FTR to win the AAA tag team titles on Wednesday's AAA Noche de Campeones event in Acapulco. ESPN reported that Lee will start with the company in January for the NXT brand. Triple H tweeted out, an unbelievable athlete who has collected accolades and held championships across the globe, and he's just getting started. The next chapter of Dragon Lee's career begins with WWE NXT. As a result of his announcement, Lee and Realistico then vacated the titles just minutes after winning them. See, I'm going to go on an aside here, a quick aside. Just so you know, this wasn't, I'm pretty sure the Cubs fan, Lucha Blog, I'm pretty sure he got the report that this didn't blindside anyone, right? It wasn't Dragon Lee going into business for himself and no one was prepared for this. AAA knew about this a long time before the match was settled and whatnot. Like they knew it in advance. Okay, they knew it well in advance. And she's so that's it. So he got. AAA knew that what was going on, and they went with this plan nonetheless. And they're like, well, okay, we'll drop the titles, and then we'll have the winners vacate the titles because one of the guys is leaving. This is why it's funny to me. It's funny to me that a lot of people got so bent out of shape over the intergender titles with Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti, probably because Sammy's involved, right? People got so bent out of shape. Oh, they can't travel. They're being stripped of the titles. What a bunch of jerks. AAA doesn't give a shit. They don't give a shit about their titles. They barely give a shit about about their main championship. They barely do. Like if Tony Khan knocked on the door and said, "Hey, maybe Kenny Omega could be your grand champion again because they give you exposure in the US," and be like, yes, let's go ahead, let's do it. That was that close to an accent? I don't know. But they don't give a shit about their titles. They don't. They really don't. It's a whole other ball game in Mexico. This should not be any like shock to anyone. If anything, I'm going. I look at all of this unfold and I go, of course it's going to be this like, vacuum of just like, well, okay, we'll just give it up and we'll give the titles to someone else at some point. Like, you can't apply. You legitimately cannot apply the same type of logic towards titles and this feeling of history and so on and so forth to these, especially to the secondary, tertiary titles in Mexico as we do in North America. You just don't, because Mexico is its own lucha libre. It's its own can of beans. Trust me, it's fine. Anyway, that's why it was so weird to me that people got upset. Oh, they're double booked, and that's strange. I'm not. I don't think it's weird. Who cares? And they were like, well, they're not going to be there for sure. Like that. Anyway, in the ESPN article, on top of that, there was a quote from James Kimball, who is the WWE head of talent strategy and operations. And I checked out James Kimball because I was like, wait, is this someone we know? Is this a shoot name for like another wrestler? But no, it's a guy who used to work at UFC. Feels like a Nick Khan hire. Maybe is this the first time I hear about him? I don't know. Dragon Lee, this is his quote. Dragon Lee is a tremendous talent that will immediately add value to the NXT roster. This signing is reflective of WWE's renewed emphasis on globalizing our talent pipeline with Latin America positioned as a focal market. Is there anything, and look, I drop this information once in a while. This is what I do for a living in my real day job. I write this kind of, I write press releases. I do a lot of PR. I write stuff like this occasionally, but in the context of a pro wrestler, right? A pro wrestling talent coming on board, and you call up, head of talent relations for a talent strategy and operations, for a quote, and you're sitting there and all you do is you pull out the buzzwords. You're like, man, this kind of stinks. This is kind of boring. Like, what a way to deflate the excitement. Yes, well, we feel that this is conducive to our talent pipeline strategy, which emphasizes our globalizing efforts to, it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, there's a time and a place for everything. That's the kind of speak you put into, business, communications, not to fucking ESPN. So it's dull as hell. And on top of that, well, it was Dave Meltzer reported that he ain't making NXT money. Meltzer noted that AEW also made an offer to Lee. On top of that, the deal he signed with WWE is for 3 years, and the financial terms are above the standard NXT level money. This is Meltzer's quote here. This is from The Observer directly. AEW had also made an offer to Lee. From a money standpoint, it was obviously more than Mexico, but we were told the WWE offer was above the standard NXT level money. but not main roster money. WWE contracts typically have a confidentiality clause that prevents talent from stating publicly how much they are being paid. Lee would receive a new contract if he is called up to the main roster, with the bottom number for such contracts at $250,000. The belief is that he would be the highest paid, and this is Dave writing here. The belief is that he would be the highest paid NXT wrestler now that Mandy Rose is no longer working with the brand. It's a 3-year deal and does call for pay increases with each year. But the hope and certainly the feeling he was given is he would have a main roster contract and be brought up in 2024. And it was later clarified that this would make him the second highest paid wrestler in NXT. Behind who? Chat, I'm going to let you try and guess this one. Let's have a little fun here. Chat. Dragon Lee is being paid more than NXT roster money. He is the second biggest paid star in NXT right now. Who is currently the top guy? Not Von Wagner. It is indeed Apollo Crews. He probably is still holding on to that main roster money. So Apollo Crews, then Dragon Lee. Good for him. Look, I keep saying it and I'll say it again. If the boy, anyone who wants to milk billion-dollar company World Wrestling Entertainment for all the money they're worth, go right ahead. You have my full support. I hope he gets all the money. Now, of course, the thing that sucks is that I'm never going to see Dragon Lee wrestle again. And it stinks because he's a wrestler I really like. I enjoy his stuff quite a bit. But he's essentially persona non grata for me now. I don't know what the deal is. Whatever happens next for Dragon Lee is... And look, it's a weird decision. But here's the thing. It's like, I get it. Sometimes I think it's difficult to put ourselves in the mindset of an indie wrestler or someone working Mexico, where you're working dates or working shady promoters, you're running after your money constantly, you're doing weekends all the time, you're the grind, right? And everything is so uncertain, and your own physical well-being on top of that, your medical health. So here's the thing. This is what I'm wondering here. So here's the thing is that I can understand, it's not that I can understand why a pro wrestler at some point would be like, look, let's give me a guaranteed check in the mailbox every week. And and that way, I won't put as much strain on my body. Like, I get it. I get every single thought that can go behind this. Probably a guy like Dragon Lee, growing up in Mexico, probably saw WWE when he was a kid and was like, I'm going to wrestle there someday. So for him, this could be like a dream come true, right? I mean, all of this makes sense. I don't blame him. But WWE is not the, it's not the land of opportunity for lucha libre. And we have, everyone is going to point and say, yeah, Rey Mysterio did fantastic. Rey Mysterio was gone from that company for a long time, and they brought him back. I'm not going to touch on this on a future episode, but they brought Rey Mysterio back because they want legends, because they want older guys, the guys that you remember fondly. They want to build themselves up another crew of older guys that they can bring out for a Hall of Famer night whenever the ratings start to stink, because Ric Flair's not coming back, Mark Henry's not coming back, Christian's not coming back, Paul White's not coming back. There's a bunch of guys who aren't coming back. So it's not exactly like WWE is the the best possible proving ground for lucha libre performers, right? You know, how long is it going to be? You know, people is like, oh, what do you think, Warren? You think they're going to have his mask? Do you think they're going to take his mask, have him unmask to wrestle? I'm like, how long? My question I have is, how long is it going to take before they have him coming out with piñatas or some other stupid shit like that? That's what we should be wondering. How far down the road is it going to take before they start bringing out the tropes? Anyway, good for Dragon Lee. Sucks that I'm never going to see him wrestle again. Probably. At least for a while. He's still very young. It's crazy. This is a guy who had bangers with Hiromu Takahashi in Mexico. And he was in New Japan for a while, and I'm convinced that they had plans for him. He was in the Liger match. He was in the Liger retirement match. NWA Powerrr is going to return to YouTube. You heard this? Am I going to start covering the NWA again? Off of the Post Wrestling article. NWA's YouTube channel is now back as the sole host of Powerrr. In 2022, the National Wrestling Alliance announced their all-access plan would see Powerrr first air on Fight via subscription before airing on the organization's YouTube channel on Thursdays. In a press release issued today, and when I say today, I mean January 3rd, 2023, the NWA is going back to their original format of Powerrr, airing solely on their YouTube channel on Tuesdays at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. NWA USA will remain on the channel as well. Fight is continuing to carry NWA pay-per-views, and the next one is Nuff Said in... Why did I say it like that? You know, Nuff Said, it sounds like a bad attempt at an urban sitcom, you know, in the mid 90s, right? And because the main character, that would be his tagline, right? It's like, Nuff Said. Anyway. And then the Crockett Cup, and then NWA 75. And the subscription is going to the subscriptions are going to expire shortly, and you know, everyone will still be able to watch the pay-per-views that are included in it, and so on and so forth. I want to thank our viewers who used Fight's monthly or annual subscription service to enjoy our product, said William Patrick Corgan, president of the NWA. Making the switch to having the world be able to watch NWA Powerrr at the same time is essential to our growth strategy going forward. Fight has been an important partner, and we are happy to continue our relationship with Fight as our pay-per-view provider. Look, my instant reaction to this was, this is good news for the talent that is on NWA. Because I think having their exposure paywalled was not a good thing. And I think that this is, I think it's much more significant here. I think it's very, very interesting here. So overall, I think it's good news. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suddenly saying that, oh, now we're turning the tides for the NWA, and now, you know, the everything is going to be roses and bunnies and little happy little bumblebees moving forward. No, there's still a lot of work to do with the core product. You know, as long as they have at the top the people that they have at the top right now, there's no interest in me watching the NWA. But you know, whenever I hear talk about a good match that happened on NWA, I'll be able to find it out more easily. And it's like it was pointed out and was told in the press release. I don't know how many people realized really that that the NWA that Powerrr would end up being broadcast on YouTube like 3 days after the original airing on Fight. I didn't know that. Who knew that? Nobody knew that. So it'll just help perception-wise. Like, okay, well, now you can watch the NWA live and let's just go. I think it's good. I think it's a good move specifically for the talent. We'll see what kind of growth strategy they're talking about here. But it can't be any worse than being paywalled. And of course, we'll never know the subscription numbers. We'll never know how many people are subscribed. They're going to keep that close to their chest. But I'd still be curious to see. Now, what I find interesting here is their, you know, I find their departure from Fight interesting, considering, you know, the how much people seem to have latched on to to Fight Plus, right? The $4.99 offering from Fight, where you get a GCW, AIW, Wrestling Revolver, and so on and so forth, like a whole slew of indie promotions for like $5 a month. Was the NWA offered a spot in this, and did they turn it down? Maybe, we don't know. But I can't help but wonder, right? I can't help but sit here and do one of these again. How much that factored into maybe it was even a common agreement with Fight where they're like, look, you guys aren't necessarily making us money anymore, because look at all the money we're making here, or whatever. I mean, Fight was paying money advance. They were paying advances to these indie promotions to join the Fight service, the Fight Plus subscription. I'm sure NWA, if they approached NWA, it was probably with the same type of deal. And maybe William Patrick Corgan was like, no, my world champion is a Fox News personality on national television. You know, I should be getting a bigger cut than Brett Lauderdale, kind of thing. Maybe. But I can't help but find it interesting that they're just like, no, look, we're gonna drop the all access thing on Fight, and we're gonna go back to YouTube, and we're gonna do things our way on our own, which is commendable. Don't get me wrong. But I wonder how much the Fight Plus scenario weighed into their decision to ultimately pull the plug. Some Japanese contract news. We do. There was a very interesting Pure Wrestle report off of Voices of Wrestling, which is very interesting here. Talking about some contract news in Japan. A lot of stuff going on, but I'm going to zero in on a couple of things here that was discussed in the report. And I know, look, for some reason, a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's Voices of Wrestling, and I don't necessarily trust them as a news source. When it comes to first of all, when it comes to Japanese insider news, there's no one else who has these scoops, who has these details. There's no one. So I don't know who do you turn to then for your Japanese scoopsies? I want to know. First of all. Second of all, over 2022, they had a pretty solid track record reporting a bunch of stuff that happened, and but reporting a bunch of backstage stuff that essentially came to fruition on multiple times. Kept us very well abreast of the Kota Ibushi situation. I don't know what the problem is. I don't understand it. Like, I'm very open to anyone to anyone sending me proof or like, look, Warren, you shouldn't trust them because this situation here, they completely shit the bed on this one. But let's not start splitting hairs. It's not things where it's like, well, they said that his contract was going to be up in October, but it turned out it was in November, not October. They completely dropped. Like that's splitting hairs at the point. If the outcome of the report ends up the same and maybe like a slight temporal detail was omitted, that doesn't change much. You know what I mean? First of all, Jake Lee, as Evan, King of the North, mentioned here in his members milestone message here, member for 15 months of the MrWarrenHayes show. Thank you very much, Evan. He says, Jake Lee, you want me? Ghetto answers, no. That's pretty much what feels like happened anyway. First of all, Jake Lee showed up this weekend at the Noah New Year's show, the New Year's show, which is called Noah the New Year. And Jake Lee, he showed up, and they were, as it stands right now, Voices of Wrestling are unable to confirm whether or not he was signed. But here's the thing, and I'll read this verbatim here, quote, following his departure from NJPW in December, Lee once again sent feelers to New Japan, but like AJPW's attempt to secure Lee for a G1 spot, there hasn't been much interest. And there was a lot of speculation that that's where he was going to end up because he's been lobbying hard to get into New Japan. And he wanted to be in the G1. They dropped the ball on that one. Clearly, there's people back there who just don't want him around. And frankly, I think it's okay. I mean, Jake Lee was I almost called him AJ Lee. Jake Lee was a good enough talent in a small pond, but I think he's the kind of guy who you need the support of the booker to be able to come full circle on what he's supposed to provide as a pro wrestling talent. Tajiri was right up until very recently the booker of All Japan. He was removed from his position. Tajiri said, all right, thank you very much. Bye-bye. I'm out of here. And Jake Lee stepped away as well because his friend in the office is gone. And he got Nagawa in there. But so Jake Lee saw the writing on the wall and he's like, well, I gotta hit the bricks. I gotta take a powder out of here. Calls back New Japan, pretty much like talks to Gedo. Gedo says, no, I'm good. Thank you. And he hits the bricks. Ends up in Noah, shows up there. Now this could be a per appearance deal, could be just a one-time thing. We don't know. But that's very interesting straight off the bat. We got a lot of news on Suzuki-gun, on the guys in Suzuki-gun. Stuff that surprised me, that I did not know. I was shocked to learn. But first and foremost, we're going to go back here. Apparently, the decision to break Suzuki-gun apart, of course, from New Japan, came from Bushido Road. Upper management. And did I call them Bushido Road? Bushi Road. I'm sorry. And let me take a sip here. I think we're at that time of the show. So management is calling into the booking side of things and saying, look, we need to get in control of this because so we should split up these guys. Now the question you have is, why would management call in to have this done? Well, it turns out that the majority of the members of Suzuki-gun are working on handshake deals. And has been the case for some of them for many years. Not a lot of them under contract. And it would seem that the Carl Anderson situation, quote unquote, spooked the office into insisting that all core roster members be locked into contracts. That's very interesting. So since a lot of Suzuki-gun members are unsigned officially, upper management wanted them all either signed or to break up the unit to minimize the look of them leaving the territory and showing up as Suzuki-gun somewhere else. Isn't that fascinating? So as it's pointed out in the Voices of Wrestling report, the call to break up Suzuki-gun was not a creative one. It was not called from the booking office. It was from management. Now, this is very interesting to me because Bushiroad is very hands-on, or at least it's been a few months. They've been very, very hands-on with booking decisions for New Japan and Stardom to a degree as well, right? With the creation of the IWGP Women's title, with the creation of the New Japan World TV title, with the breaking the bank to bring in Sasha Banks. Like, they've been very hands-on here, where for a long time you knew like Gedo just had run of the place, right? He could pretty much decide here, and you didn't feel, at least on a creative level, you didn't feel the involvement of management all that much. Now clearly they're getting their fingers into this, probably a lot more than what happened in the past, and breaking up situations that have been there clearly for years, such as Suzuki-gun members not being signed. So who is signed and who is not signed? Well, listen, I'm going to read here, quote, "There is a strong possibility that many of the unsigned Suzuki-gun members, aside from Minoru Suzuki, who already works plenty of freelance, will opt to work freelance, with the feeling New Japan will still use them for tournaments and bigger tours." That makes sense to me. It is confirmed that Yoshinobu Kanemaru was one of the few Suzuki-gun members who was under a New Japan contract, but is no longer under contract for New Japan. Well, at least it's unknown if he still is. El Desperado, not under contract. Taichi was at one time working on a handshake agreement, but it is assumed that he is not under contract. Lance Archer, under contract with AEW. Minoru Suzuki, always been a freelancer. Taka Michinoku, not under contract. Zack Sabre Jr. is said to be under contract, although they could not confirm, they being the Voices of Wrestling guys, could not confirm. The contract status of Doki is unknown. So that's very interesting. Also, okay, so I'm getting some breaking news here. So they've since confirmed that Zack Sabre Jr. is indeed under contract and Doki is signed. Okay, that's interesting. And they got Kanemaru and Desperado mixed up in their report here because Despy is a New Japan Dojo guy. Of course, Kanemaru came in from he was a Noah guy, if I'm not mistaken. So there we go. That's some breaking news right there. That's all very interesting. So we see a bit the lay of the land here. So we could end up with a lot of Suzuki-gun guys who just end up, working freelance in Japan, maybe popping over into the US. And there's no way Minoru Suzuki is being locked down into a contract, especially at this point in his career. And especially if they're starting to put him with the dads, like they're doing at Wrestle Kingdom this year. There's no way he's locking himself down. Absolutely not. And finally, Bushi. This is interesting. member of LIJ, he's been tweeting with Nasawa Rangai, current, is he booker or does he just have some, is he a power broker? I don't know. I can tell you one thing, Rangai is not the booker for Pro Wrestling Noah. But the right here, the idea here is that maybe Rangai Nasawa is courting Bushi to come over to jump ship and join All Japan, and because look, that's where Bushi started off his career as well. He's originally an All Japan guy, and apparently this is a situation. These are rumors that have been going on for a while, because actually months ago, which might explain why they brought Titan into LIJ, maybe to become the group's pin eater lucha guy. To replace him in the junior spot, essentially. Because I've opined multiple times how weird I thought adding Titan to the groups was. Felt a little out of nowhere. And I was like, did they just bring Titan in so that Bushi could have a tag team partner for Super Junior Tag League? And I was like, I don't understand anything. It felt out of place. But now things are starting to make a little more sense. But no one's been able to confirm Bushi's contract status right now. So this is all pure speculation at this point. This is very interesting. So today I discovered a whole bunch of stuff about people in New Japan that I've been watching for years and enjoying. They've been working without a contract. So, we can't even like slap Carl Anderson around and be like, for what happened with him in the Never title. This was a common occurrence. And it still is. Who's to blame in this situation? No one else than New Japan. And Bushiroada's like, look, you guys got to tighten this ship. Because the bullshit we had to go through, I'm willing to bet 10 Canadian rubber bucks that Rocky Romero called up his bosses in Bushiroad and said, look, I am so fucking sick of dealing with Paul Levesque right now. I am so done with this dude. I can't negotiate with him anymore. I'm at my wit's end. I'm at the end of my rope. I'm sure it was a fucking headache for him and anyone else was. I'm saying Rocky, because I'm sure Rocky was involved in this, in these negotiations at some point. And it's like, I can't stand this anymore. So, and Bushiroad like, well, you know what? And then this one executive at Bushiroad is like, look, I am sick of Rocky Romero calling me every other day to tell me how much he hates talking with WWE. This can never happen again. This is pure speculation on my part. Doesn't it seem plausible? Like, I feel bad for Rocky. I really do. Having to deal with this bullshit. Because he had an interview recently. This is where I'm getting this from. Because he had an interview recently where he was saying, that the whole Carl Anderson thing made him nervous. He was like, don't fuck me over, Carl. Before we get deep into the review of Stardom Dream Queendom 2022, I watched some of the matches of Noah's first show of the year, Noah the New Year, because, look, I wanted to at least watch the Shinsuke Nakamura Great Muta retirement match, right? At the very least, I was like, look, I have to watch this. So I resubscribed to Wrestling Universe, and I popped that in, and I was like, look, there's a couple of other matches here I want to watch. So, overall, I think I thought it was an okay card. I thought the reunion of Marufuji and Kenta was a pretty good match, a tag team match. I thought that was fun. But at the top of the card, and this is like I don't want to do a complete breakdown, because here's the thing: like I'm still at odds with Noah. I'm still at odds with Pro Wrestling Noah, and this show was a bit, still proves that I'm not ready yet to jump back in, to jump completely back into the to jump completely back into to Noah. Look, because I came in guns blazing to Noah in 2021, late 2021, when Nakajima and Keno had that dramatic, excellent 60-minute Broadway match in November 2021, late October, November 2021. They just had this crazy 60-minute time limit match, which I adored. I was like, this place rules. And then for the next 12 to 18 months, we're fucking booking Great Muta, Kaiji Muto, in the main event and winning the championship, you know, when he's gassed and can't move anymore. We got Fujita that we're putting at the top. Fujinami. Like, what the fuck are we doing? It's not... You dangle these extraordinary top tier wrestlers. You dangle them at me. I come in to watch. I pay you a subscription, and you're gonna put these old guys at the top? Come on, man. That's enough now. So, Great Muta leaving, to me, signifies that maybe we're ready to move into another era. So I wanted to give this a chance. I wanted to watch the Shinsuke match because I think that it culturally, as a wrestling fan, I think it's significant. I want to see everything that Muta does on his way out, because again, as a wrestling fan, I think it's significant. I want to see these things. And it also dipped my toe back into knowing, like, well, how are things going? And it's still very uneven, and it's not quite the thing yet. But look, let's talk about the Shinsuke Great Muta match, which was the main event of the show, right? This was what I expected as far as a match goes. Because again, Muta's broken. Kaiji Muto is broken. He's not anywhere near a physical capacity to work a match, a singles match. You know, we have Sting over here in the US, who is as old as he is, and is even older, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check here. How old is Kaiji Muto? They're around the same age. Muto's 60. So they're around the same age. And Muto gets gassed. He can't do anything, can't take bumps. You have Sting on the other end. I'm not sitting here and clamoring for a Sting singles run. I think that would do a disservice. The way they're handling it with the way they're handling with the tag teams, pairing him with Darby, it's just been perfect. But Muto here, he's doing the singles thing. He's been doing it for a long time now, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's frustrating. In a place where work rate is king, like Noah, where guys slap the shit out of each other. They just cream each other with shots. And you have Muto doing weak ass, lightning elbows. And I'm supposed to buy this? I'm supposed to believe that this is what's going to take a man out, kind of thing. Like there's so much suspension there's only so much suspension of disbelief that you can do. So this match here was exactly what I thought. Shinsuke doing a lot of the work, and when Muta would do work, it'd be ground moves, submissions, and, using international objects, choking him out, chair shots, stuff like that. That's essentially what it is. And mist. We got 3 different types of mist in this match. We got the red one, we got the black one, and we got the green one. This was not, I didn't care for it. It was fine. It was all right. But again, like, this kind of ties into my point earlier about Ric Flair. These gentlemen have illustrious careers for a reason, and it is not these final days where we are showing them the utmost respect on how they should be remembered. You know what I mean? I'll go back and watch some early 90s Great Muta when he's running around with the NWA title. That's the kind of shit that, if I'm going to honor the memory of Muta or Flair, I'll just go back and watch their old shit. I'm not asking for this. I'm not asking for main event Great Muta in 2022. So whatever this was, it was all right. It was a very sports entertaining match, which is probably one of the reasons why WWE agreed to it, because this worked like a WWE match. It was fine. Shinsuke, look, and here Shinsuke comes out with his complete entrance. Had a guy on this enormous percussion drum on one side, and he had his violinist Lee something. I can't remember his name. I never remember his name, and I feel bad every time. But the violinist that accompanied him in his NXT entrance and his main roster entrance, you know the guy I'm talking about. He flew him over with him to do his entrance in Noah, which is super dope. And Shinsuke comes out, and he's got they're doing the WWE theme. So they're doing all the music, they're all the sights and sounds, whole 9 yards. Shinsuke's got a great entrance gear and great gear period. And you look at this and you're like, it's crazy how much Shinsuke Nakamura's presentation is tied to this guy and his mystique. And you look at him, you look at how he's presented at that one match. And he's like, this guy's a star, a superstar. And you remember, this guy has charisma. This guy has, he's got this weird je ne sais quoi about him that you just latch on to. He's larger than life. He is a rock star. That's what they used to call him at some point, right? In WWE. He's larger than life. And now he's going to go back to Friday nights, and he's going to be one of the other dudes. He's going to be one like every other dude on that roster. Again, I'm not going to bitch on him for milking what WWE's worth. If he wants the paycheck, all the more power to him. But if anything, this emphasizes so much how ridiculously misused Shinsuke Nakamura has been ever since his AJ Styles feud. Ever since that moment in time, Shinsuke has been a pale shadow of what he used to be. It's kind of it's a strange wake-up call, and I can promise you that WWE's not going to air this footage because they don't want Shinsuke looking cool like this. They want him to be one of the guys, just another dude on the roster. That's all he's meant to be now. It's a shame. But he worked fine. Like he worked all right. Landed the Kinshasa a couple of times and sold what needed to be sold and did the kissing spot where he sucked the green mist out of Muta's mouth. It's been done before, and I've been told that it doesn't matter. It's fine. I thought it was a creative way to end the match. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. He got the pin. A lot of people were surprised. So why are you surprised? First of all, the guy's retiring. Muta. The guy's retiring. He should be leaving the territory flat on his back, putting over the new guys. That's what you do. You leave the business in a better place than when you left it so that it can continue to thrive. But Keiji Muto doesn't think that way. Keiji Muto is like, get me to the pay window as soon as possible. Right? Well, we got that. So that's one thing. The second thing. Why did anyone think that WWE would let one of its wrestlers go wrestle a match overseas anywhere else and have them lose? Why did anyone even remotely entertain that possibility? It's not how it works. If any, look, at some point I'm just like, it's naivete. It's people who suddenly now realize that WWE can work with other companies, but don't have the history to back it up. So there's no way WWE was sending Shinsuke, even if he is just one of the guys on the roster, over there to lose a match. What are we doing? No, this was the right ending. It was the right way to wrap it up. Personally, and then of course, well, there was the whole press conference with Keiji Muto after, where he said, I don't know why Shinsuke, okay, let's start from the beginning. He says in his press conference, in his broken English, he's huffed, he's a little hard to understand, but he's giving his post-match in English, which straight out the gate is a tad unusual. And he says something to the effect of, I don't know why he did that. Maybe he's queer. And he says, anyway, okay, thank you, bye-bye, and he leaves, right? And some people seem to have heard him use the F slur. The one to be derogatory towards gay people. And I was like, wait a second. I think I heard it, but I'm not quite sure. But the point here, regardless of what specifically he use that specifically, the point here is, did Keiji Muto use the F slur or not? In fact, that's not the point. The point is that Keiji Muto decided that he had to cut a post-match promo after his retirement match from Noah to say, I don't know why he did that. Maybe he's queer. So Muto felt like he had to reassert himself and say, yeah, he might be queer, but hey, by the way, I'm not. He had to reestablish that for himself because maybe he felt a little threatened here. Maybe he felt his masculinity had been chipped out a little bit and had to underscore the fact that he's not gay, though. I'm not gay, I'm Keiji Muto. Like, I don't care if he used the F slur or not, because the message behind this promo is exactly that. It's pretty weird, brother, that you felt challenged like that and that you had to make a point out of it and not say thank you to the fans for coming. It's been a great run in Noah, thanks. High five everyone and leave. Weird. Very weird. And not a good look. And I think it's just as derogatory than if he did say the F word or not. I don't think even on a, just stand alone, it's not a good look. It's bad. To thump his chest. I'm a man, God damn it. I'm a man. I don't know what he is, but I'm a man. And then you counter that, in the co-main event, right? And I hate it when they do co-main events. This is a WWE thing, co-main events. The main event is the match that goes last. No. It's a co-main event. No. The match that goes last is your main event, brother. That was the main event. But the co-main event match was the GCW, here I go. GHC heavyweight title championship match where champion Kaito Kiyomiya defeated Keno in the first great match of 2023. And there's no two bones about it. This was excellent. And as opposed to the Muta stuff, this was exactly why I got turned on to Noah in the first place. Because I've got two guys here who are leaving it all in the ring. The ace of the company and Keno, who is one of their top guys, one of the best workers in Japan. Kiyomiya is what? He's 25 years old. He's 25 years old. He's GHC champion, and he rules. This was an excellent match. And it was fierce. It was strong. You even got the big high spots. You got Keno hitting a falcon arrow on Kiyomiya from the top turnbuckle to the apron. You heard that right. Falcon arrows the dude off the top turnbuckle onto the apron. Kiyomiya spills to the floor, of course. I think this was great. And a lot of people are like, oh, what? Of course, you have the concerned police who come in, right? And they're like, oh, but, And it looked like an awesome bump, but when you slow it down, you take the time, this is sometimes what I do with big bumps like this. I'm going to just take the time and review. Kiyomiya landed flat on his upper back. Like, he took this bump like a pro. I'm not saying it didn't hurt like hell. Like Mick Foley once said, if a bump looked like it probably hurt like hell. So this probably hurt like hell. I'm not saying he didn't get hurt, but he took the bump like a pro. Just fantastic stuff. And then earlier on in the match, Kiyomiya, he does a swanton, a running swanton over the corner turnbuckle to the floor, which was outstanding. And they're striking at each other. They're hitting each other. Just a great, gritty fight. Some fantastic sequences. Keno at some point goes for a moonsault. Kiyomiya avoids it, rolls out of the way, so Keno lands on his feet. Kiyomiya's right on top of him, goes and lands a Rana into a cover, which Keno rolls through into a rear naked choke. And I'm just sitting there in awe of these two guys. It's just so smooth. Just so fantastic. The tiger suplexes and dragon suplexes. And Kiyomiya ends the match by doing the only way I can call it is a tiger liger bomb, because he locks the arms like he's about to do a tiger suplex. But instead of doing the tiger suplex, he flips Keno around into a sit-out power bomb, like a liger bomb, right? And he lands his Shining Wizard, and this is what I liked about how he landed his Shining Wizard, he being Kiyomiya. Throughout the match, he had landed some Shining Wizards. One to the back of the head at some point, then another one and another one. And Keno kept kicking out. So he does the Tiger Liger Bomb, gets back up, lands a Shining Wizard, but this Shining Wizard, he comes in, and as he's flying to land the shin strike, right? He grabs Keno's head. And I pop out of my seat. Boom. Make sure that, so he gives extra torque on the head to make sure that it connects with the knee. That puts him out. He retains his title. It fucking ruled. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is what I want out of my pro wrestling. First and foremost, this is the shit that will make me tune into Noah. Like, so maybe with Muta on the way out, we might be done with the old guys. But then at the same show, Hiroshi Hase shows up. Hiroshi Hase is a 61-year-old pro wrestler who is a politician. Like, he's governor of a prefecture, I guess, in Japan. He's an elected official. And he shows up. And he is well known. He's beloved. 61 years old. This is a guy who was trained by Riki Chotsu, for fuck's sake. And they're bringing, Muto's on his way out, but they're bringing Hase in because they're like, well, let's give him a final run. I'm like, what? Look, if they keep him, here's the thing though. If they keep it as an attraction, I don't care. But the problem that I had with the Muto run is that he was always involved in the title situation. He was always winning. He was fucking GHC champion. Well, in the meantime, you have uber talented dudes on the card. Weren't doing anything of value. Noah did gates. They did very good gates because Kaiji Muto's a name. He's Hulk Hogan, right? That's literally it. He's that big. He's huge. So he's going to draw people coming in to see his final matches or his final runs. But you don't have to put him at the top. For some reason, they had to make him champion. So bring in Hiroshi Hase if you want. Bring him in as an attraction. Not unlike Sting. Just don't belt him up. You know, continue building these new guys. Continue giving us some good stuff with Kiyomiya. Anyway. Kiyomiya, Keno, early match of the year for your boy Warren. This was great. Wanna say hello and hello again to Mr. Fantastic, who has joined us today on the MrWarrenHayes Show. By the way, for those of you who are not members of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel, we've been discussing this on members only streams for the past couple of weeks, and I am considering creating little theme songs for members as a perk, like a little short, not a full-blown like 2-minute deal, but like maybe a stinger would be more appropriate, but a little thing that I could play when a member joins a live chat, you know, kind of thing during one of the live streams, and you just play that. And we've been discussing this on the members only stream, so keep an eye out for that. I still think that's pretty fun. Could be a lot of fun. And I like fun. And since I like fun, we're going to talk about the Dream Queendom 2022 show. Stardom's last big show of the year. We're going to give that a proper review. It happened December 29, 2022 in a little town called Tokyo in a country called Japan at Korakuen Hall. Not Korakuen Hall, excuse me. What? That's Sumo Hall. What am I talking about? Ryogoku Kokugian, I think. Sumo Hall. Very good wrestling show. And I'm going to preface this one more time, just so we're clear. again, and when you watch this stuff here, hey, Joe Poulain Jr., member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. Nice to see you. I'm the Between Two Beards. Thanks for popping in. I'm going to preface this one more time, but it bears being repeated every single time I have an opportunity to say it. There is nowhere else in the world that does women's wrestling properly than in Japan. Joshi is the thing, where women are treated like athletes and are expected to wrestle and work and put on great wrestling matches. It's Japan. Whatever we have in North America, sometimes it's good, occasionally it's great. Most of the time it's situations a little dire for multiple reasons. It's not because of the talent necessarily. Oh, no sirree, Bob. But I look at this and I'm like, I look at this, and this is why earlier on I was goofing on the pre-stream with the live viewers. I was saying, look, everyone who's going to tune in to watch, all of the WWE fans, the Sasha fans, stans, the crew. Shout out! I'm an unofficial member. They have accepted me into their fold. They envelop me with their love, and I appreciate that back. I think it is important to welcome the crew to Japanese wrestling. A lot of them are going to watch Wrestle Kingdom and they're going to be completely befuddled because for the first time in many of their lives, they're going to watch wrestling that hasn't been put on by WWE, and they're going to realize they're going to be completely overtaken by this show, by this production, where they're going to be, I don't understand this, and because it's not going to look the same. But we have to welcome them, and we have to take the time to nurture what they're going to see, because if anyone who freaks out over a Friday night SmackDown women's match would sit down and watch a STARDOM Queendom match, for instance, the main event, they can't go back to WWE and say this is great, because they've seen what great women's wrestling looks like. It looks like the dudes, basically. You know what I mean? It doesn't quite look like the dudes, but it's treated like the dudes. And this show kicked off great with a fantastic high-speed title match where champion Izumi defeated Hikari Shimizu. Great way to kick off the show. Like, honestly, a great way. The high-speed title is, I think it's great, and I love Izumi. And Izumi, I had been, my boy JPQ, shout out, he had put her on my radar when she was like 17. It was like, this is the kid. This is the next big thing, right? A couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. You got to keep an eye on her. She's going to be fantastic. And she is. And she's only getting better. And right now she's in the high-speed division, which is essentially like the cruiserweights. Izumi's looking great in this match. She's got a great tan, a tan that's better than Sting's in 97. There's a lot of countering between them both. Cross bodies off the top to the floor. Izumi arm drags Shimizu off the top rope. A great missile hesitation drop kick by Izumi as well, which was really dope. Huge tilt-a-whirl slam by Shimizu. Series of near falls, coup de grace by Shimizu. Huge skull kick as well follows, and multiple exciting near falls throughout the entire last third of the match. Like, there's this one where Izumi kicks out of an attempt. Shimizu just gets immediately up onto her feet, does a quick double stomp, and just like hits it, falls back, and drops right back onto Izumi for the pin. And I'm like, urgency. Okay, so the rolling in and out of falls isn't working. She gets up, she stomp, and she tries again. It rules. And I'm like, this is great. Creative stuff that I don't see very often. But Izumi pulls back for a chicken wing finish. She retains her title. Great opener. Then we have a six-woman, a trios match. Let's call it a trios match. here, all amongst members of the Stars faction, where Hanan, Mayu Iwatani, and Momokogo defeated Hazuki Koguma and Saya Ida. And this was essentially a preview match to the Triangle Derby tournament, which is starting in January. I love the title, Triangle Derby. I think it rules. And it's essentially a trios tournament, a round robin trios tournament. So, you know, they do it for the singles, for the Grand, I was going to say the Grand Prix, but no, it's the 5-star. The 5-star Grand Prix. And then they do one for the tag teams. And now we're having one for the trios. So that's excellent. Shenanigans to start here because, you know, they're all friends. They're all in the same faction. Oh, the Derby's already... Yeah, that's right. That's right. It did start last night. But we got Shenanigans to start, but Hazuki doesn't care for Momo. Momo is a bit of the outlier here. Momo Kogo, just to make sure that we know who we're talking about. Not Momo, not the Odeo Tai Momo, but this Momo here. Apparently she's a bit of the black sheep of Stars right now. Mayu's not super impressed with her, and clearly Hazuki doesn't either, because whatever shenanigans they were doing, Hazuki doesn't care for it. She gets some savage face wash kicks and a senton on Momo. We get some back and forth. Hazuki hits a code breaker on Iwatani. Koguma hits a huge DDT on Iwatani as well. Flying shoulder tackle by Sayuida, and a fantastic arm drag Northern Lights with bridge. Was just great stuff. Saya and Iwatani slug it out. And then Iwatani starts warming up, hits a crucifix bomb. Great triple team effort that happens. Top rope splash by Iwatani. Dragon suplex with the bridge. Gets it done. So Iwatani's team gets the win here. That was fine. Fun action. I think that if you are more of an avid / regular viewer of Stardom than I am, and are really into the factions and the relationships, I'm pretty sure that there's things that escaped me here because I watch the big shows, but not everything. So I'm sure there's some stuff that escaped here, but it did feel like a good preview for the Derby. And we had a tag team match between Mina Shirakawa and Unagi Sayaka. They took on and defeated Mai Sakurai and Tekla of the Donna Del Mondo faction. Mina's very good, and she has this great charismatic showmanship presence about her, which makes her very endearing. And she has some great misdirection offense throughout, but eventually the DDM girls get in control. Tekla locks in a Muda lock, huge back fist by Mina in response, an X Factor by Sayaka. Sayaka and Mina have not Mina, but Mai Sakurai, excuse me. They have a boot off. They're just like landing big boots to each other. It was great stuff. Tekla with a hammerlock DDT on Shirakawa as well. And Mina and Unagi, they land a gory bomb bulldog combo, which I thought was a lot of fun. And we got a rolling forearm by Mina. Then she runs into a spear by Tekla. She gets right back up, kicks in a back fist and a leaping enziguri. And she lands the GSS, her finisher, for the win. However, after the match, Mina essentially kicks Unagi Sayaka out of their tag team, Pink Kabuki. And Mina had come to the ring with two women. She was accompanied to the ring by two women who some of you who follow the British scene might have recognized. Two wrestlers, specifically Zaya Brookside and Mariah May. And after the match, after Mina dumps Unagi Sayaka, she announces that Zaya Brookside and Mariah May are forming up a group called Club Venus. I don't know if this is a new faction or if it's just like a loose association. I don't know, because factions are a bit of a big deal. The trio will be going by the name Club Venus. Mina asked why Unagi wasn't there for her and attacked Unagi. She's done tagging with Unagi. Mina, Zaya, and Mariah are Club Venus. That's what the English Twitter, Stardom Twitter account said, right? All right, just here's some breaking news. Mina Shirakawa made sure to clarify the roles here. She says, Cosmic Angels, I'm still Cosmic Angels and Club Venus, but Zaya and Mariah are not Cosmic Angels. How about that? So it's not a new faction. It's not unlike House of Torture. It's not unlike House of Torture. Zaya Brookside has been in Stardom before, so I mean, it's not as if she had tons to do in Britain right now in the UK. So that's good for her that she was able to get back in there. And honestly, I think a little more time over there as a gaijin and working some joshi, I think that'll do her tons of good. Mariah May has not been in Stardom. I don't think she's ever been in Japan, really. I'm just checking here real quick, but it doesn't look like it. Worked a lot of the UK. And look, I mean, she's 2022 was her busiest year, where she wrestled 15 matches. I don't know. Look, I don't want to get too judgy here. Not too judgy, because Japan can do a lot of good for someone's career. It really can. But I don't think she's I don't think she's the greatest women's wrestler out there. But again, if she wants to go hard on this, maybe this is what she needs, right? To just explode, discover something, unlock something within her. Might be something good. Fine little match. Then we had the Goddesses of Stardom title #1 contendership 3-way match. The Goddesses of Stardom title is the tag team titles, and Himeka and Maika defeated Ami Surai and Mirai and the team of Natsuko Otora and Ruaka to become the #1 contenders. And I'm glad about this. This match I was looking forward to because these were a lot of the power wrestlers who were here. Himeka and Maika, particularly, who I really like. And the Odayo Tai duo here are in charge early on. Lots of power moves as Tora and Maika double team. Wait, that note doesn't make any sense. Let's just forget it. There's a wheelbarrow suplex by Mira in this match. Fisherman's Buster by Ruara. We have suitcases and kendo sticks that are used by the Odayo Tai girls. Swanton in a top rope splash, and it all comes to an end with a Michinoku driver by Himeka to get the win. I thought this was pretty good. This was actually this match here, and as much as I like Himeka, Maika, who I think are two fantastic power wrestlers who really stand out in an environment like Stardom. As much as I thought this match was fine, but really like nothing more than that. I think it was a little disjointed. But this was the last of the humdrums for the evening, because I feel like from this point on, this show just pointed upwards and kept climbing. We had Kairi versus Utami Hayashishita, with the gimmick here, the stipulation being that whoever loses the match had to revert to their rookie year presentation. So no elaborate robes, no great music, no interacting with the fans. I was like, oh well, Kairi's winning, because she has to interact with fans at the Tokyo Dome in a couple of days. Good start to this match with both women blocking strikes. Utami rams her down, scoop slams, and another, and she actually scoops up Kairi and walks around with her in the scoop position. Kairi drop kicks her in the corner, head scissors takedown, follows, flying forearm off the apron, then starts beating Utami on the floor. Kairi goes for a running move. She gets a running head start, but a ringside attendant gets in her way and blocks and goes, no, don't. Okay. I'm sure there's some lore to this. I don't quite get it, but okay. We get back into the ring, flying forearm off the top rope and a leg choke submission by Kairi. Kairi's cooking with gas in this match at this point. Just great stuff. Running backpack slam, however, by Utami starts turning the tides. Cobra clutch spin, like a big swing, but in a Cobra clutch. Liked it by Utami as well. They run the ropes. Kairi lands an interceptor and a huge DDT. Avalanche air raid crash by Utami. Kairi lands one of those vicious back fists. Utami lands an arm-trapped Samoan drop. That's, if it has a name, I don't know what it is, but that's the best I could call it. Hammerlock DDT into a submission does Utami then, just holding Kairi as she struggles to get out. Utami goes for a spinning razor's edge. I think she has a name for it. Again, I'm not quite familiar with it. Kairi rolls out of the ring so Utami can pin her. But shortly thereafter, Kairi goes up top, lands the insane elbow, tries to get a cover, but they get to time. They go to a draw. 15 minutes on the clock. They went the whole way, so no one gets to be a rookie again. At that point, I was like, this is my match of the night. This ruled. And my match of the night would be challenged for the rest of the evening. This was great. Kairi is such a good pick to be IWGP Women's Champion. It's ridiculous because she'll be able to do this kind of magic, and she'll be able to work a style that the North American audiences won't be completely turned off by, that won't come across as being completely alien and weird, if that makes sense. It's crazy that she can still go at this level. It's great. I like her. I like Utami. Good match. Got me excited. Got the blood pumping. Then this leads us into the Artist of Stardom title match. It was a hardcore match where the trio of Hiragi Kurumi, Raiza Sera, and Suzu Suzuki defeated Momo Watanabe, Saki Kashima, and Starlight Kid to become the new Artist of Stardom champions. Out from Prominence. I was told that, well, Kristen previewed it last week when we were when we did the preview, right? That the idea here was for the Prominence was that the women coming from the promotion Prominence wanted to do hardcore matches over there, but Prominence said, no, we're not doing hardcore matches. So they went to Stardom. They were like, can we do hardcore matches? And they're like, yeah, but you won't win, kind of thing. And this is where we got here. So I'm delightfully surprised that they won. It all makes sense. And this one starts before the bell, and it gets wild early because Starlight Kid is riding a bicycle right into, and just like runs over the women who are all flat on their back. They're being held down. Momo eats a side slam on a stack of chairs, and she uses a trash can and a bat on Kurumi, which I got a little worried about, but it turned out just fine because, you know, those aluminum trash cans, they don't offer much, they don't offer much protection. It's not a coat of chainmail that you're putting on yourself. Standing moonsault. They have laptops at some point. I look, the laptop spot wasn't that great, but it was funny because they were clearly like old MacBooks, and they had put duct tape over the logos just to make sure everything. Anyway, and they sort of used them like little pyramids in the ring. Okay, that was something. Kurumi lands a boss man slam missile dropkick by Suzuki on Starlight Kid, and Suzuki beats the shit out of Starlight Kid. The Oteotai Tai crew on the outside get involved. You know, the rest of the Oteotai Tai stable, clan, group, they all get involved. Starlight Kid lands a moonsault, piles chairs in the ring, and Starlight Kid plants Suzuki on them. And then, meanwhile, on the floor, we're setting up a pyramid of chairs. So we're opening up chairs, and we're literally creating like a house of cards, but chairs. Kashima wails on Suzuki with a chair. There's a table in the ring. Suzuki does a jumping pile driver off the second rope through the table. And Suzu Suzuki here, she's been tremendous throughout this match. Not only with the pillage, but with her own moves. Her strikes, her kicks, precise, lethal. The kind of stuff where I'm like, hot damn. Saki Kashima is eating so much shit in the last part of the match. Like I'm looking at this, okay, they're setting her up. Momo's not taking the pin. Starlight Kid's not taking the pin. Saki's taking the pin on this one. Lots of near falls. Production misses the pyramid chair spot. Can you believe it? I was like, what is this, WWE? Hey-oh! Suzuki deadlifts Kashima into a German with bridge for the win. Mwah. Just a wild affair. Great stuff. Just excellent stuff. And we have the Goddesses of Stardom title match. Tag team titles. Where Nene Takahashi and you, again, strangers to from the Colors group, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. And you defeat the team of Meltier, Natsupoi, and Tam Nakano. And they are the new tag champs. It's fantastic stuff. Again, another just a great match. And you know, if anyone was worried about what Tam Nakano was going to do on New Japan, on Wrestle Kingdom in a couple of hours at this point, they should relax because she was fantastic here. Well, she's always been fantastic, but this is a reminder. Natsupoi here gives up a lot of size. Natsupoi is she's a tiny little elf. Takahashi and you, they're big, beefy wrestlers. And Takahashi savages her. Natsupoi, that is. Anything Natsupoi is trying is ineffective until she finally drags Takahashi down and tags out to Nakano. Running knee by Nakano and a superplex by Takahashi. They trade kicks. A lariat by Takahashi as well, and a sit-out powerbomb. We get You coming in a shotgun drop kick. Natsupoi drop kicks her to the floor, goes up to the top turnbuckle and does a flying crossbody onto the floor, but you catches her. So Tam just goes up to the same turnbuckle and does a flying crossbody of her own. Everyone collapses to the floor. Natsupoi eats some short arm chops by you. She fights back with some kicks. Combination top rope, knee drop, and twisted bliss by Meltier, which was pretty cool. Cannonball senton by you. Huge splash by you from the second rope. Natsupoi has this great counter out of an electric chair, but the Colors ladies hit a double Razor's Edge on Natsupoi, and you lands on a last ride on Natsupoi to get the win. And when you look at the sizes of these two women, it could have been anyone's last ride. Fantastic! Just a great tag team match with excellent action, great in-ring storytelling. And we had the Wonder of Stardom title match. Saya Kamitani defeated Haruka Umesaki to retain her title. Great matches. I had a little trouble taking notes here because the intensity that these women had in such very basic moves as the kicks and so on was so great and had such a great dramatic build. If I were just to walk you through the stuff, you wouldn't get the full feel of it, but this really ruled. We get some tests of strength, some back and forth between them both. Kamitani dumps Umesaki off the top rope onto the apron. And Kamitani, like I said, it's all about kicks. She's landing those kicks and they're hard and they're great. Umesaki, starts to fight back. They wail on each other. Kamitani hits a fisherman's buster, a stomp by Kamitani as well as she heads up top. And there's a cross-arm suplex, a great floating splash by Umesaki. Saya drops her with a sit-out brainbuster, and it's a roll-up that gets the job won. This, again, a great match. Another fantastic showing. I liked the tag team match a little more, and I think I liked Kairi and Utami a little more, but this was fantastic. But now we get to the main event, and what a year to close it. I tweeted out, anyone who is compiling their match of the year lists before Dream Queendom was doing it wrong. And thankfully, Shuri and Julia proved me right. Where Julia defeated Shuri to become the new World of Stardom champion. This match was absolutely fantastic. Just look, it starts high energy and it finishes in attrition. It finishes with just guts, laying everything out there. Think of any great New Japan New Japan title match that you've seen in the past couple of years, and this is right up there. I enjoyed this so much. Shuri goes for an armbar early on, and they spider each other into the ropes and open hand strike each other. It's just like, these women are just ready to fight. And I'm here for it. Huge hammerlock belly to belly overhead suplex on the apron by Shuri. They start fighting up the ramp. And here comes big spot number one. Julia suplexes Shuri off the ramp onto the floor into chairs. And not a stack of chairs. I'm talking upright chairs where an audience should be. I'm like, we're like, what, 5 minutes into the match? Tops. Big spot number two. They're on a table. Shuri pile drives Julia through it. I'm like, all right, let's fucking go. We get back into the ring eventually. Guillotine leg drop by Shuri. Then Shuri lands a German suplex. Julia gets right back up, hits a German suplex of her own. Shuri gets right back up, throws a kick. Julia dodges it and lands another German suplex. At that point, I have chills. I'm like, let's fucking go. I'm all in on this match. They won me. More open hand slaps. Julia gets a leg bar in. Kicks and stomps by Julia, follows a chicken wing superplex by Shuri. I don't know exactly how to call it. Like, here's the thing. It's like, I know that a lot of names for these moves exist, but I'm not super familiar with them. So I'm going to try and call them as I see them, I guess. So she does this superplex and right into an arm bar. She traps both arms, but Julia reaches the ropes. Shuri has these destructive kicks. And she throws a kick at some point. Julia catches it and somehow manages to turn this into a backdrop driver. Gutbuster from a fireman's carry position by Shuri. All right? This is what we're doing here, folks. Another backdrop driver by Julia. Falcon Arrow by Julia. Attempt is reversed into a pin by Shuri. German suplex with bridge by Shuri. Julia lands a glorious driver. Shuri kicks out. Northern Lights bomb by Julia. Kick out by Shuri again. They're on the apron and they're trading kicks and they go up top. Top rope butterfly suplex follows. Shuri drives her into the mat. Julia kicks out at 1. There's this series of non-stop power moves. Again, that I'm sure all have names. I think it's in this sequence that Julia starts channeling her friends, her members of Donna Del Mondo, their finishers. She even pulls out the Tiger Lily in homage to Hana Kimura. I'm pretty sure it's in this sequence here. There's a lot going into this, a lot writing into it, lots of emotion. Shuri goes up top, but Julia reverses it into an avalanche sunset bomb. What are we even doing? Running power bomb by Julia. Double underhook pile driver by Julia. Straight jacket German by Shuri. Pump handle belly to backs by Julia. And Julia ends the match with a glorious Northern Lights bomb. From what I understand, it's her brand new finisher. Just fantastic stuff. Wins the match. You got to watch this. You have to watch this match. Look, honestly, if you have the money, you have the inclination, you have the time, you will not. This is money well spent, this pay-per-view. You should absolutely give it a shot. It's fantastic. It's a great show. But this main event is special. It's great. Last great, excellent match of the year, contender match to close out the year by two of the top women's wrestlers on the planet. Top wrestlers on the planet. Let's go. You know, here's the thing. Again, like I can preach to the high hills talking about how you know, it's in Japan where women's wrestling truly thrives, right? But ultimately, when I look at a match like this, all that comes to mind, women or not, is like I'm looking at world-class athletes doing world-class athlete shit. That's all there is to it. At some point, it's about the talent. It's about the athletes. This was great. I cannot recommend this match enough. You have to go out of your way to watch it. And then tell me how great Friday Night SmackDown is with their women's division. I keep telling this story. but it's legitimate. About like in the mid 2000s, I'm being taken out by a friend of mine who is an Epicurean. gentleman who likes good food, good wine, high gastronomy. And he takes me to a very high-end steakhouse. And he's taking me out. It's on a special occasion, and he's footing the bill, and he says, "Order what you want." He says, "I recommend this steak here. It's been aged like for X number. I don't remember, but one of these well-aged steaks from Kobe, probably. Like, my memory's a little fuzzy on what specifically the steak was, but what I distinctly remember is the server, when I ordered the steak, he said, "Sir, I just want to tell you that if you eat this steak, it will ruin every other steak for you for the rest of your life." And I think I sort of laugh, we sort of giggle at it, but he says, "I'm not joking." It says that you are going to create a new standard for yourself that most of what you eat on a common everyday basis, you will not be able to achieve. And let's fucking go. Let's do it. Pulls it out and he digs. And I promise you, the server was absolutely right, because to this day, I have not had a cut of beef that even comes close to that $70 piece of steak that I ate that day. I trust me. I'm salivating thinking about it. And every time I eat good steak, fine steak. I know how to prepare steak. That's fine. But it is never, ever, ever been at the level of that particular meal ever. And that's how I feel about Joshi wrestling, Joshi period, and North American women's wrestling. You taste one and then you're like, well, why are they just doing this? Why is all I'm looking at are tornado DDTs here? Anyway. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how we are going to wrap up this week's weekly wrestling inspection. I think I'm going to change the graphic for the weekly wrestling inspection. Might even I won't give it another name, but I haven't used the Cool Beans and Worm Soda stuff for a while. It's a relic at this point. It's a relic. I need to update my graphics. If you're listening to this on your podcast application right now, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But thank you very much, and consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. That would be excellent if you were capable of doing so. And if you're listening to this on YouTube and you made it all this far, well, listen, thank you very much, and consider a like and a subscription to the channel. You won't miss a thing, including my Dynamite review, which is going to be the next time I pop up here on the channel to do the Dynamite review on Thursday. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited for the new year. Thank you all for joining me on the first Mr. Warren Hayes show of 2023. I appreciate it a great deal. And my only resolution to you is to continue being the best D-list podcast out there, because I've got an A+ audience. Hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.